Hello, and welcome to the Superhero Hub. I'm Sam.
No, Matt.
Nearly forgot to say my name then. And today we're going to be reviewing,
Legion.
yeah, Legion Episode 5, entitled Chapter 5. Um, so this episode, in my opinion, is probably the best of the season. I thought there was a lot of talking points, hella talking points, and a lot of confusion. I mean, if you're gonna harken it to the first episode in terms of confusion, they kind of knocked it up a bit. It's interesting because what they're kind of doing is they're answering questions. They're answering the big questions now, but they're still kind of like the way they're showing it to you is very confusing from that point onwards. So if you're going to harken it to the confusion of the first episode, but there was a lot of things going on, so we'll get right into it. Like off the bat, obviously they're stretching back the girl, the other half of the Doctor, who's like always looking for a fight and like got battered last week. It's like, okay, love, calm down. So she's stretching back, and I thought it was good that they I kind of like that Doctor guy. I think I said that last week as well, but it's kind of all these characters are kind of like they appeal to me in one way or another. Like another character who kind of came back was the telekinesis guy, which we hadn't really seen since the first episode. But anyway, so the Doctor gets the girl back, and obviously has got to like operate on her, because it's good that they kind of explained, because Sydney was like, oh, why don't you just absorb her back into the body? I think it was Sydney. But one of them said, oh, why don't you absorb her back into your body? And it's like, oh, if I did that, I'd go into shock. So it's good that you can't just like, oh, the girl's been shot, plot device, okay, we'll just absorb her into my body and you won't see her for half an hour and then she'll come out fine. So
Yeah.
I think,
Well, I mean that does kind of happen anyway, but at least they took some effort into explaining it.
yeah, the light effects on it's cool, where she kind of comes back to consciousness, bullets out, she's healing fine, and then he kind of absorbs into her. I thought that was a cool looking scene.
Yeah, and it takes on their injuries as well. That was cool.
Yeah, I think that was the obvious thing to do. That I think it would have been like cop out if he like morphed into her and it was like fine. So yeah, I thought that was kind of like standard. So yeah, so David came up. I mean, earlier in the episode, is kind of very cocky now.
But I
So
was going to say that as well. Yeah, that was interesting, wasn't it? It's a real change up from what we've seen in the last 4 episodes of the guy who's completely unsure of himself. Now,
sinister even.
yeah,
He really was like sinister. He kind of like mocking the woman, because like, well, I mean, it is kind of in control of his powers now. So he kind of opens like a psychic thing between him and Sydney, where they can kind of like a mental thing where it's like they're in a white room and they can kind of touch and make whoopee and stuff like that, and it's just like their little thing inside the head. I thought it was interesting because the first time they're in there, that like all the rooms like pristine and clean and all that. She's looking nice, she looks incredible, he looks good in his suit, and then everything's like all white, and then it kind of goes on to the strawberries, and like you got little like wood lice crawling on them and stuff like that. I think that was a good kind of metaphor for like everything's perfect but one little bit is kind of like rotten, you know what I mean? So I think that was a good metaphor for the personalities in his head. So yeah, they're doing their thing. He kind of comes out, he's talking to the woman, he explains about the astral plane, which she's got knowledge of. It's not like he says like astral plane and she's like, oh, I never heard of that before.
yeah. Well, presumably her husband.
Talked about it.
Yeah,
Yeah, because she was saying how like I thought this was good as well. How she was saying about her husband, how he had like psychic powers as well, and he used to like sit there and like stare into space. Like he used to go into these places like kind of I guess David's doing now. He used to kind of create them things in his mind, and then he'd like go into stare into space, and then like one time he did it and he kind of never woke up. So yeah, I thought that was kind of cool, and like that's where kind of David was like goading and stuff like that, because like she was like, oh, did he say anything about me and stuff like that, and then he kind of has that sinister grin on his face and kind of talks down to her, like is kind of that he was coming off his body language and the way he was kind of portraying himself was coming off very kind of unsettling and sinister, whether that being a precursor of things to come.
Yeah,
So
it's also interesting like how much of that is David and how much of it is the other devil, Shadow King, whatever the hell this thing is, taking effect.
yeah, so from that they kind of devised this kind of plan they're going to take on Division 3. There's a lot of them in an hour and like how they're going to do it, and like again David goes into his psychic place and we see some Batty for all those kind of into those sort of scenes that there was a bit of Batty, so yeah, there's kind of is kind of I like the kind of intimacy connotations, like they're in there and she's talking about her past, and it's kind of like a thing where they can kind of talk and get away from everything and really be a couple intimate. So I kind of like that as well. So from that again, like I mean, you got the it's kind of white, but there's a blue tinge to it in that scene, and kind of you go into like a bathroom on the other thing, and it's like all red. You got Lenny in the bath and is talking to her, and she's like, "Oh yeah, maybe you should do this. Yeah, go and get it done. You know what I mean?" And then
I think we see King the dog as well, don't we?
that's later on.
Is it?
Moving on from that, I think it's interesting because she was like, they're having a conversation. It was like, oh, if you get lost, make sure you get lost with me. And then he kind of just teleports out of there.
Mhm.
Like, he vanishes and, like, abandons her. And then there's, like, the big music thing and stuff like that. And then everyone's running. And I thought, oh, yeah, something's going to happen here. It's like the woman in white, like I forget her name, but is she like dipping off to go and like attack Division 3, and like they're running after her, and it's like no, they're just all running to the car. Dramatic. I thought like the car was going to blow up or something, but absolutely nothing happened. So we kind of get a they go to Division 3, and this is like the first time on a large scale, except for episode 1 when you found Lenny stuck in the wall and stuff like that, that you actually see like his power, and it's reminiscent of Apocalypse in the steel mill in X-Men Apocalypse, where like he makes all the people fall into the floor and like bits of them are...
Yeah, kind of. And I've got to say, I'm glad this happened as well. It's been my one kind of fear from the beginning of the show. We talked about earlier. The Division 3 thing, I just wasn't really into it. I think it's kind of goofy. I didn't really see them as viable villains. Having him just rip through all of them, I think is a better place to go.
I mean, you could obviously tell, like, you see the one who was cut in half and was like, that one, you could tell that was a dummy. That kind of made me laugh. But yeah, I like the fact they kind of, because I was thinking, oh, they're going to go there, it's going to be a trail of corpses. But to have, like, half of them, like, in the ground and, like, stray legs everywhere, I thought that was a cool, like, they obviously watched X-Men Apocalypse and thought, oh, that's a cool effect, we'll borrow that one. So they kind of get into the facility. Yeah, I mean, key moment from the telekinetic man. He like stares at the door and then just like whoosh, whips it like 10 miles off.
You're right. Like, what's the point of that dude? You're right. I completely forgot about who he was.
I don't know, but I like his style. Is like he's got telekinesis. Instead of just like tearing the door off or whatever, or just pushing it to the side, is like whoosh, into the sun. You know what I mean? I like that. I like
He's
that.
dead though. I guarantee you, he's dead. So, well, because if we don't care about him, he's easy to kill. He's basically rich, like in Star Trek. They can just kill him off pretty easily.
Yeah, I guess so. I think he's alright though. I like that he just dashes things
We
miles.
just don't know anything about him. I mean, but Sid and the other, who was it? The dream guy.
Yeah.
They find a doctor in the prison cell, but the sister's gone. I think David's very taken over at this point. Why did they leave him in there?
I don't know, but because I was thinking about that, I think David was just like, look, I'm doing my own thing, whatever. Because you kind of find that out later, but like I think her thought process was like, oh, if David's left him in there, why should I bother letting him out? You know what I mean? But he'd obviously, I think he'd cracked. He's kind of lost his mind. He doesn't know anything, and like that, he says how they keep asking him the same questions over and over again, and he don't know nothing. So I think literally he's cracked, because you see that he's like banging his head off the glass. And he's like, bitch. I thought that was cool. I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, there's nothing they can really just forget about him. You know what I mean? They're never going to go back to Division 3. They've torn it apart, so forget about it. So they kind of, the other woman and telekinesis guy, get into the security room. They're watching the footage, and you're seeing like, I thought this was cool as well. Like David,
One way
like,
of burn them up.
yeah, and he's
Yeah,
like dancing to it. It's like, phew, and he's like mullering them. I thought that was, they're just doing everything right. You know, credit to like the people who do the show and stuff like that. They're doing everything right. I think he's a good actor as well. I think he's really good for the role. I think he's great. So I was impressed with that. I like the kind of and the
Yeah.
effects like boom.
That was a cool effect, and one I think they could pull off with their budget. I mean, like I say, the apocalypse thing is a good effect, and it kind of worked, but they don't really have the budget of that movie.
Yeah,
That effect worked better.
yeah. I think it was kind of cool as well because it's different. You know what I mean? There's a lot of ways you could have done that, but first it's like that's and then I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
exactly how it was.
and also they look down, and I don't know. This was another screen, right? Because it was weird. Because it was
Oh
like,
yeah, it was like a monster or something.
no, it's like the guy in yellow, the guy with the
Yeah.
yellow eyes, him going around clicking and blowing people up. So then I was thinking,
Is that David then?
I think it is, yeah, because I was thinking, well, it's on another screen. It's kind of in black and white, so it's kind of like you see David there, but here's like a heat. You know, they have the different infrared cameras and stuff like that. So I think it was kind of like a negative thing or whatever, and it was just showing like the guy doing it. So I was thinking, is that like literally David, but this is like the personality controlling him? This is what it really looks like, or is he in the building as well doing stuff? But I figure like that was David. It was just, this is what David looks like when the other person's in control of his personality through like an infrared lens or whatever. Because you see the old guy who was saying he said like in the first episode there's a mutant, is kind of the old fuddy-duddy guy with the white hair who's like bumbling around with Division 3 that pops up every so often. He was like on the floor with a leg off, like, and he was saying like it is a monster in human skin or whatever. So I think that was kind of just to clear up what we saw on the computer, on the surveillance screen earlier. Like, so they leave. You had the doctor guy because he was fiddling about with stuff, and then you had him come over like the watch thing. And
That was so weird. It's like some like Power Rangers effect or something. I couldn't believe it.
yeah, that was so random. And he kind of, this is where we get like answers, because he's saying how like is not like saying that it's schizophrenic, and like the woman's like, no, it's not, and then the guy's like, no, it's like these are different personalities absorbed into his body that do different things. And he was saying how this demon or whatever, the one with the yellow eyes, burrowed into his mind or got into his head when he was like a child, and like has been there ever since, kind of like controlling him and stuff like that. Well, not controlling him, but you know, it's like in the comic books there's different personalities in his head, like fighting to be like the main personality and kind of push everyone aside. So that's kind of what that would be. And then
which basically is kind of like schizophrenia as it is.
yeah, and he explains, and then she's like, oh, so David doesn't have powers? And it's like, yeah, he does have powers. It's like, it's so powerful that like anyone else would be torn apart, but because obviously David's got an omega, well, they don't mention omega level. What I'm saying, because David is like a super powerful omega level mutant, he's the only one that could sustain having that in his head and not being torn apart. You need to be super powerful. So I thought that was good. I mean, we got answers from there. I thought those were good answers and stuff like that, because that clears that up, because now you kind of got an idea of what's kind of going on. And I think it kind of it rooted it back to the comics, because it never really explained like the idea of different personalities controlling different things in his mind, but now it's kind of they've kind of rooted it.
You know what I love?
Yeah, they've rooted that to the actual comic books. What are your thoughts?
And I mean, And with that, I mean, we always kind of figured that anyway, but we had the comic book knowledge. For those that didn't, I think it kind of outlines something that's obvious in this episode. Like David, it's not just that he has confidence. What he's doing in this episode and how he's acting and how he's walking around, that's completely different. Like, it's a completely different person. So it does make sense from that point of view. I'm back.
Yeah, different personality, like, underlying, but it's like, it's kind of sneaky, you know what I mean? You can tell that something's off with him, but it's like, you can imagine how it's kind of like a personality, like pretending to be him but not getting it just right, you know what I mean, being like cocky and stuff like that. I've also got a note down here, nice camera work, because when they're in Division 3 now going down the stairs and it had the kind of camera grip, I thought that was good. So I thought I'd bring that up. So yeah, then you had a kind of mental thing between him and Sydney where she realises is at the house, and then this eye guy pops up again, you know what I mean, he comes out the building. It's like, it's interesting how everyone else got mullered except him, and now I'm trying to figure out what this guy's power actually is, because I mean, it's in the building, pretty much everyone's got mullered, like literally everyone's got mullered except this guy.
I don't know, because, correct if I'm wrong, in the last time we saw him, no, not the last one, maybe, yeah, it was the last episode, he was getting shot at, wasn't he? And like, he somehow managed to manoeuvre his way through him.
Yeah.
The bullets, so I don't really know what his power is.
I think it's like a shapeshifter as well, because he managed to shapeshift into the...
Oh yeah, it's the shrink guy, wasn't
he? Yeah, so whether he was... I mean, I'm trying to think now, looking at the guy. I think it gives it away because it's the dodgy eye, but I don't think the guy in the cell had that eye. So I mean, if he had then you'd kind of know that he was hiding in the cell and kind of dodged it. So wherever the hell he was, I mean, if Legion wanted to kill him, or David wanted to kill him, I think he would have killed him. So whether that's like a red herring or something, but this guy seems to just, you know, stroll out of there. So that's got to be like a big thing, the fact that, you know, that's not something to just ponder over. So yeah, they're making their, I mean, the team are making their way to the house, but meanwhile at the house, he proper melts out. So yeah, he's talking to the sister like, yo, give up the ghost, what's popping, there's something you ain't telling me. And then while he's talking to, like, on where he is, it's like interesting because he's over there like eyes glazed over, like out of it. I mean, and then like it flashes between the dog, the angry boy, and I think the yellow guy as well. So I think they're all kind of aspect of the same thing. The angry
Aubrey Parker comes out at some point as well, doesn't she?
Yeah. She pops out of the mirror. So like he's fully, I don't know whether he's cycling through the personalities in his mind and stuff like that. It's like I still don't see where the angry boy fits in, because he keeps popping up and I really don't get the relevance of him yet, and it's kind of annoying. But yeah, it comes out that he's adopted shock horror, and that's like the big bit. I mean, we pretty much knew that anyway, but obviously he didn't know that, so he's shocked. I wasn't so shocked. I was waiting for a name drop, but she doesn't know anything. I think he knew though, because she kept saying how he was like really upset, but then like how he kept getting really upset and stuff like that, and like
I think he knew she was hiding something. Whether he knew specifically that he's adopted or not, I don't know.
Yeah, because she said as well that mum and dad were going to tell you, but like something happened, and it's like, oh, did they die then? I mean, I figure they must have died before they told him or whatever. Something happened to them, and then yeah, obviously the people, the team kind of make their way onto the house. Then they all of a sudden can't talk.
That was cool.
Yeah, and then like again we had like the eye guy in the bushes, like standing there, and then they're making their way through the house, and then like again the angry boys running through the house, and I really don't, that's the one thing I don't get yet, and that keeps bothering me because that keeps popping up.
It's something to be tied into, because, you know, I don't know either, but because remember the dad, I can't remember if we've seen the mum, but the dad, we never saw his face, but he was reading that creepy ass story.
Yeah. So
Does that have something to do with that? I don't know.
I think it must, but that's the one thing that's really bothering me that we haven't got answers for yet. So yeah, and I thought it was funny how like the doctor, like they're all standing at the door, like waiting for something to pop off, and it's like just the doctor with the thing. It was interesting as well because when the telekinesis guy was on the bottom floor, again you kind of see like a flash, and then it's like the eye guy with the frizzy, it's standing there, and then it kind of flashes back to him. So I don't get what that's about either. I don't get that. Really don't get the eye guy. So yeah, and then eventually, Sydney. I keep getting confused between them two, but Sydney stumbles upon the sister, and like then Aubrey Plaza comes out the window, out the mirror, super crazy, and again like David's like on the wall, like glazed over eyes. So I think she's like, because it's interesting, they were saying how like Lenny or Benny. I mean, she referenced it herself. She's like, I'm Lenny or Benny," and stuff like that, and flashes between them. And like, it's interesting that she was always referenced, or he was always referenced as leading David astray. So I think it's interesting that they can see her, but like she must have been alive, or he must have been alive, and then obviously died, and then became one of the personalities in his head, and who's like in control. Because she was in control, and he was just like blah, against the wall, and then she's making out with him and doing all weird stuff and mounting him, and it's kind of interesting. I thought she was great.
I'm sure he did too.
Yeah, but I mean, properly, I thought Aubrey Plaza was really good in that episode. Her voice kept like, she was like talking to Sydney as well, and her voice kept going demonic and stuff like that. Whether she's an extension of the yellow guy, but it's like, why wouldn't the yellow guy just be the extension himself? So there's a lot of kind of weird things going on between kind of Lenny, Benny, the dog, the angry boy, and the yellow thing. But I mean,
what do you think it is?
Because like the doctor says like an older mutant who's been there for 30 years, and I don't know whether the 30 years is relevant, but it's like an older mutant. So
last week I really didn't believe it, and I still kind of don't, but I'm going with it now. I'm Shadow King.
Okay, it could be. I mean, they said
I don't know if they'd ever call it the Shadow King, but like a dog named King. It's a whole
because like the dog
in the astral plane.
The dog flashed as well that it was it went negative as well. The dog, it barked and it kind of flashed like negative. So whatever that means. But I think I'm kind of struggling. It's like I'm thinking, right, is Lenny and Benny one thing, and then the yellow guy, or are they literally just extensions of the same thing? Like Lenny, Benny, the dog, the angry boy, are all extensions of like the yellow guy. That's the kind of thing I was struggling with. So kind of, yeah.
I think so, unless the yellow guy. And see, this is where I struggle. The only twist I could see, which would be slightly confusing, but the only twist I could see is that the yellow guy isn't really evil, or isn't a part of the evil mutant. It's actually there to protect David.
I honestly don't know, because I mean, moving on from that, obviously she's like yellow place, they teleport to the yellow place, and then again the yellow guy's like chasing after her, and then he goes to touch her, and then vroom, all of a sudden she's back in the mental hospital. Aubrey Plaza's the like psychiatrist talking about like how her dad's death affected her. She's there. The fighting girl's there, the doctor's there, the telekinesis guy's there, the memory guy's there, and the old woman's there. So everyone who was in that house, including the eye, everyone who was in that house at that moment, and now all of a sudden in some sort of like psychiatry, they're back in the mental home, all dressed to the nines in their mental garb, and all in the thing in like a session. So you've got to look at that from a psychological standpoint, as in Aubrey Plaza's in control, and now all her patients.
Yeah, Aubrey Plaza's in control, but in control because of David. David is the one, I think anyway, David is the one that created that situation. Aubrey Plaza's just got what she wanted, which is control of David again.
Yeah, Very, very, very good episode. A lot of talking points. Yeah, we got answers on the yellow guy, but for me, the big questions now are: what's the relevance of the angry boy? Are the angry boy, the dog, Lenny and Benny, and the yellow thing all the same thing, or are they like different things? Or is like the dog angry boy and yellow thing the same thing, and Lenny and Benny are like different things? That's my kind of questions on that one, because kind of things got covered up. What the relevance of the adoption is? Yeah, she was hiding something from him that is adopted. I mean, how will the fact coming out that his Charles Xavier's son change anything really?
See, I think maybe what they'll do is maybe make the mother, the biological mother, a character. Make that important somehow because she's not. Go on.
Oh, it's interesting because Patrick Stewart said he'd be interested in being on Legion.
Right, but there's no. This season's shot and done already, isn't it? So there's
Yeah,
no way.
yeah. But I thought it was interesting that he came out with that. But
Because
yeah,
I don't think they'll ever change that he is Xavier's son. But the mother, she's no one big in the comic book, so it's basically you got a blank slate to do whatever you want with.
yeah,
She could theoretically still be alive somewhere in the show.
yeah. It's interesting about the biological parents as well. I mean, they've been referenced. I mean, the next episode's in like a psychology thing, whether they're going to talk about more stuff and more stuff's going to come out about his childhood and stuff like that. I know his people are going to be there to witness or whatever, but it's kind of all up in the air. But I think it was a solid episode. Let's talk numbers.
I'm gonna go with 9.
Yeah, I'll give it a solid 9 as well. I thought it was probably, to be honest, see, it's interesting because generally, like the first episode's like a great episode, and everything else just plods along and stuff like that. But I thought for the 5th episode in the season, um, all the other episodes have been strong, but I'd probably say this has probably been, since the first episode, like the best episode, if not a little better. I
Yeah,
thought this was a really good episode, and it's good that they can like be 5 episodes in and still be coming on strong. So I thought that's really promising for the season.
it's
Really,
good we're getting that. It's good we're getting answers, especially now with if I remember rightly, there's only 8 episodes of the show, so we're near the end.
yeah. I mean, it's good that we're getting answers, but there's still a bit of intrigue and stuff like that. So you still like really, yeah, it gives you an answer, and then boom, 5 minutes later, there's about 20 other things that are kind of not clear, to
Mm-hmm.
put it bluntly. So yeah, strong. I mean, great direction, good ideas, good tones. So yeah, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. I'm Sam,
On that.
and this has been the Superhero Hub.